Next up, among the other public health crises Boston communities are battling, gang violence. Since 2014, the city has seen over 1,000 shootings, with more than 300 people killed. And those shootings happen disproportionately more often in the city's most impoverished neighborhoods. But this year, shootings and homicides in Boston fell, bucking national trends. And that's something the Dorchester-based group Boston Uncornered is looking to keep up by reaching out. In neighborhoods where they've actively engaged with gang members and offered various resources, they found crime rates are 3 times lower than in other neighborhoods. And those kinds of results are why Governor Charlie Baker allocated $50 million of American Rescue Plan Act money last week to violence intervention and prevention plans like these. But according to my next guest, to make a real difference, we need to invest more. In an op-ed they put together for the Boston Globe last week, Patriots co-captain Devin McCourty joined Boston Uncornered Executive Director Tito SantosSilva in calling for an additional $24 million annual investment from business and public leaders over the next 3 years to help disrupt generational urban poverty in Boston. Devin McCourty and Tito SantosSilva join me now. Devin is an advisory board member for Boston Uncornered. He also sits on the board at Boston Medical Center, has been an outspoken advocate for criminal justice reform for years, and was the 2020 finalist for the Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award. Devin and Tito, it's good to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Good to be here. Thank you for having us.
Devin, if I can start with you. You write that both of you grew up around violence and poverty. What did you experience that informs the work that Boston Uncornered does with gang members in Boston?
Opportunity. I would say growing up and seeing certain individuals go a different direction, a lot of times we had things that rely on that were like sports or entertainment, things like that. I feel like it was a mentality and a mindset of how to avoid some of the pitfalls that were around us. But it wasn't much other opportunity to look towards when you talked about, trying to be successful, trying to change and break the cycle, what was in front of you. And, I think that's why I wanted to get involved with Boston Uncornered and to try to help make that impact and give other kids that opportunity to do whatever it is they dreamed of.
Tito, I read that you were a second-year student at Northeastern when your best friend was killed, I think, over something like a pair of shoes. Is that kind of experience what propelled you into what you're currently doing?
Yeah, moments like that where you lose a friend over something so trivial, but also like what's driving that other young person to feel as though that's the best result of that interaction and that engagement. And I think there's something bigger than just morality and saying that these young people should be making better decisions. I mean, there are a lot of layers to this, and I think we need to do a better job as a whole, as a community, in wrapping around it and supporting change on a larger scale.
Tito, how big a problem is gang violence in Boston?
It's a pretty big problem. It's huge. You're looking at somewhere around the vicinity of 3,000 gangs, and broken down into neighborhoods and small groups of 5 to 6 young people at a time. And so it can become a very toxic environment for young people, even if you don't want to be involved in a gang, feeling as though you have no other choices and no other options inside of some of these communities.
Did you say 3,000 gangs? Did you say 3,000?
3,000 gang members, yeah.
Gang members, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. Devin, your Globe piece that you guys wrote, I thought was very persuasive. However, if you're not directly affected, do you think most people like me care enough about our fellow human beings, or are we far enough away to pretend like this doesn't really affect us? It's their problem, it's not ours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as me and Tito were speaking before we got on the call today, we talked about that. And I first think of, having conversations with Mr. Kraft, and he always describes one thing about how to be a bridge and how we could be using different people to be positive influences to society. So when you just think about some of the young people who lose their lives or end up incarcerated, we lose valuable people who could be making a difference in society. They could be doing something positive. And I think that is what impacts everyone. You're a street corner or 2 blocks away from anything that's really happening when you talk about Boston and the surrounding areas. So you could be involved in, I think, that difference that you can make, and not even just caring about your fellow human, but, it could be, one day a step away from you. And I think that difference you can make in helping somebody else's life be positive is what should bring us all to the table.
Well, I hope you are right. Tito, tell us exactly, how does Boston Uncornered do its work? What do you do? What's your approach?
Yeah, well, our first real major kind of outside of the box thinking is that we hire former core influencers. Core influencers are the people inside of the communities who have this unique balance of having impact and networks inside of some of these communities. Mm-hmm. And we hire them. We hire some of the older guys, men and women who have worked or lived inside of these communities, and in some cases have had a negative impact in their communities, and now they want to heal or help heal the communities from the inside out. And so we hire them to connect with young people inside of their communities and to get them involved through some form of education, post-secondary education, college, certificate courses and programming. And the idea is that they'll go back into the community or stay in their community and continue to change the narrative from the inside. We understand that representation matters. And so to see people who look like you, who come from where you come from, having success and having achieved different levels of success and having made that transition makes it that much more attainable for the young people in the communities. And through that process, we hope that we can continue to impact Boston and some of these communities that by design, historical design, systemic racism, redlining, all of these problems that came in to create these problems, we hope that we can dismantle them from the inside out. And with the support of other partners like Mayor Wu and Governor Baker and all these great people who identify and understand that there is a problem that we can heal it, though we can fix gang violence inside of Boston.
I want to get back to Wu and Baker in a second, but Devin, why are you convinced that this approach works?
I've seen it. I've been able to go to Boston Uncornered. I've been able to be on Zoom calls where you have men and women talking about buying real estate, talking about graduating college, talking about I had different job opportunities to go either here or there, but I decided to come back and work for Boston Uncornered because of the way my life has changed. I want to see somebody else's life change in that same way. And I think when you can look at a problem and see a solution and see people not only have the mindset and have the ideas to fix it, but have already showed and done it, it makes you want to get on board. And that's why a couple years ago, whether it was Andrea Cream or Tom Brady or Mr. Kraft or Jonathan Kraft, that's why they all were jumping to be involved, a part of an event to donate money because they see the impact of what this can have. They've seen a solution right there.
Tito, I asked you a minute ago, I asked Devin a minute ago about do people really care about other people whose lives they don't think affect them? Devin thinks yes. Let's assume for argument's sake he's wrong. You guys in your piece in the Globe also make the fiscal argument, the economic argument for those who aren't persuaded by the humanitarian one. You have a number in there that I found stunning. You said there were 330 fatal shootings in Boston since 2014 and that each cost the taxpayers roughly $1 million. How does that come about? I mean, that's pretty serious money. How does that add up?
We have to think about first the loss, right? If someone fatally passes away, the impact on the family, but also the impact on the community. Property values go down, medical expenses, and in some cases, maybe they have insurance, maybe they don't. So there are all these compounding layers that just add on to it. It's not just the individual who actually gets shot or gets killed, which is a terrible situation and scenario, but then it trickles out, right? And it trickles out to the rest of the people in that community. And we have to do a better job collectively in realizing that impacts us all, not just the immediate families of the shooter and the victim.
And do you, Tito, staying with you just for a second, I understand the notion of having these core influencers who a young kid can say, that could be me in 5 years if I get my act together. But when they look around them in these incredibly troubled times, in every direction you look, low-income people living in disadvantaged neighborhoods are on the wrong end of the stick, whether it's education, whether it's public health, COVID. I mean, I can go down a list. You know it far better than I do. How do you break through that hopelessness that I'm sure permeates a lot of those people's lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. High expectations and a lot of love and patience. I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that these young people in some cases we try to put this morality lens on it and say that these 16 and 17 and 18-year-old young people in a lot of cases should know better. And the reality is like, think about all the stresses you just listed, and that's just the surface, right?
Yeah.
All those stressors are on the shoulders. Like, think about when you were a teenager and the complications of just being a teenager, let alone all of these other pieces. And you end up having to make decisions that you feel are the best for the situation and scenario and aren't really.
So, Devin, last thing for you. The mayor and the governor are going to be on our radio show on Wednesday. Why don't you talk to them right now, and I'll play this for them Wednesday afternoon about why what you guys are doing with this organization should matter to and be funded by them.
The first thing I would tell them is just the people. I think both of you guys care and want to invest in the people of Boston, in the people that you serve. And this is what this is talking about. It's talking about impacting not just gang members, but like Tito just spoke about, it's talking about impacting their families, impacting their friends, impacting the communities they live in, impacting the communities that they could be working in and creating revenue and creating a profit for their families and themselves. So I think when we talk about people and we talk about positions of power, we talk about servanthood and serving others, it's the idea of thinking about what's best for other people. And I think both of these two individuals, Governor Baker and Mayor Wood, that is something you two are passionate about. It's something that you've shown that you want to do. And I think Boston Uncornered gives you a great opportunity to get involved in a way that, the solution has already been found. Now it just needs support, ongoing support from so many different directions to make even a bigger impact. So I appreciate, you guys listening and being a part of the change.
Convince me. Let's see how it does with those two. Tito, SantosSilva, Devin, McCourty, really appreciate your work and really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.